Well, hello everybody. So today I'm going to talk about the Tokyo Metro and how to use it and navigate it and some of the awesomeness things about it and some of the not so awesomeness things about it. First off, the Tokyo Metro is really easy, but confusing at the same time. The easiness about it is that typically everything is marked very well, and there are signs in English, or at least in Western alphabet, that you are able to pretty much read. So like if you are going to Asakusa, you can read the word Asakusa, so it's not that hard. The only thing that's a little bit confusing is sometimes the exits are hard to find, and then also sometimes they have two different platforms that say very similar things, so it gets a little bit confusing as far as which platform you need to be on to get to your specific destination. And a lot of the attendants don't speak a lot of English, so that can be tricky. I think they're working on that. The closer that we get to the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, the more proficient people in Japan will be with English, so it won't be as tricky. And then also there'll be so many more apps to help people out that traveling there will be a complete breeze. But the attendants are very helpful. You can basically walk up to the window and be like, "Sumimasen, Shinjuku?" and they'll tell you which direction you need to head. It's not a lot of crazy science that goes into it, and there's not too much of a barrier that makes it impossible for you to communicate with them. It's pretty good, pretty easy. We only had one guy who was like, "I hate you guys, please just leave my train station." We're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We just don't know how to read. Sorry." But everybody else, very helpful. But with that, like I said, the apps that are getting better, Google Maps, and Apple supposedly updated all their maps, and that just actually makes it easier to find things within Tokyo. But Google Maps is way better for the subway and navigating that, because again, they put the platform number on there usually. They tell you how many stops, they tell you how many minutes it's gonna take. It's a little bit more foreigner friendly. But the only bad thing about the Google Maps is that it drains your battery a lot faster than the Apple Maps does. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And like I said before, the exits, we were like, oh my gosh, where the heck are they? In America, we're used to huge exit signs that say exit, and then they say the direction, and they are everywhere because everybody sues everybody here. So if places didn't have that and someone got lost or had some kind of accident, there'd be a lawsuit on their hands. In Japan, it must not happen as often, and they must understand things a little bit more efficiently because they use subways everywhere and public transportation everywhere across the entire country. So perhaps it is just a little more common knowledge on how to navigate those systems versus in America, only certain cities have amazing public transportation. So maybe that's why, I don't know. For the non-English and the English portions of it, there are so many signs that are in Western alphabet and in like readable English words, like you can figure it out. And also most trains do have a person talking in English, so you can understand which stop you're supposed to get off at. I feel like there was only one train that might not have had it while we were in the city of Tokyo. But you can still hear Shinjuku, blah, 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 and Harajuku and blah, blah, blah. Like, you can pretty much figure it out. But really, they really, really, really are amping it up for an increase of tourists. And so I think that you will be fine. Don't worry. If you are not used to taking public transportation and you are not from a big city that has a high population, it is going to seem a little overwhelming at times. It might seem very exciting, so let's go with that positive attitude. Tokyo train stations and platforms and just the areas around the train stations are packed. They have a lot of people, and especially at peak hours, like between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 a.m., and then after the work hours, which will be between the hours of 4 p.m. and 7 p.m., they can get really packed. You see those videos on YouTube with people being like literally shoved into the train, and then the doors are like barely closing around their bellies and stuff. That happens in Tokyo, definitely. We were on one train. It wasn't that bad, but we definitely had people shoving us in, and we're like these ginormous people among all these like smaller Japanese people shoved into a train cart, just like, this is really uncomfortable and I hope we don't smell bad. And then trying to get off the train when you're on like the other opposite end, because your door opened on this side and then your exit's on this side. It's like, excuse me, please, can you move? Thank you. And it's hard because people, they want to have a prime spot to get off where they're getting, or they want to have a seat if they're going to be on the train for a while. So you kind of just have to use your elbow and shove them out of the way, basically. But say sumimasen, because then you're saying excuse me and you sound polite. But know that there are certain hours and certain days that it's going to be packed and insane. But it's kind of cool. It's a fun experience. So try it. And it's not like in the US when we have New York or San Francisco where they have a lot of public transportation, even LA, there are a lot of like creepy instances that you can run into. Or like in New York, I always remember people telling me, they're like, if you see an empty car, that does not mean you're lucky and you should go on it. That means something really gross happened on there and you should avoid it at all costs. In Japan, people are ridiculously clean. They don't have a lot of weirdos necessarily. Like, they have a lot of weirdos, I'm sure, but they're not the same as like American weirdos. They hide it a lot more than we do here. And so you don't really have to avoid train cars. But what was really interesting is that we got onto a cart that between those rush hour times, they were specifically only meant for women, because one of the problems in the Tokyo Metro is that sometimes men get a little pervy and will grope women on the extremely crowded trains. And that is a weird thing, because I think it's because there's a little bit of like sexual suppression in Japan. And so that's just one way that people get their jollies, and you can't really pinpoint who did that. Who just grabbed my bum? And girls wear short skirts there. It's really popular to have short shorts and short skirts. So for those ladies, and during those really crowded times, they do have specific cars that are just for ladies. It's kind of cool to help combat perverted problems, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, so just keep in mind that there will be packed times. A lot of times taking the train was fine. We had seats. If there are older people or women with babies and things like that, offer your seat to them, or especially if you're not that tired or you really don't need to sit down, offer your seat to somebody else, especially the elderly. It's a real dick move not to. So just keep that in mind. And another really, really great tool is the Pasmo or Suika card. So it's basically this plastic card that you can charge with money and then utilize instead of going to get a ticket every time you need to take the train. The only downside is that you want to make sure you are on top of your balance, because if you're like us and you decide to take the bus one time, which is cool because you can use it on the bus as well, and you don't have enough change on there, and then you happen to not have enough change with you, it was insane. It was like a really crazy situation. Then you're holding up the entire bus and people start hating you because you're a foreigner who doesn't have their together, you know what I mean? So yeah, but it's a really, really handy tool. And the other cool thing is that it is good for 10 years. So if you get a Suika or a Passmo card, we got the Passmo, and it seemed to work on pretty much all train lines except for some of the JR, but most of the JR, I mean, I don't know, we had no trouble using it. We're just like beep, and then we would go. Yeah, so you can use it this time and then make a trip back within 10 years and use it again. Oh my gosh. So it's kind of like you have to go back because that's awesome, right? But yeah, I definitely recommend, especially if you're going to be there for a little while. If you're used to the US and like New York or something, you can buy a week pass and it's a lot cheaper than Japan. Some of the train lines are a little bit more expensive. Then you're gonna think this is expensive, but for us, we thought that it was really inexpensive and it was really convenient. I mean, we ended up spending quite a bit of money using the train, but we didn't have to take a taxi. We could also take the bus, and we always price things out to make sure that we were taking the cheapest route and the cheapest train. Another handy thing about the Google Maps is that it does tell you which trip is going to be the less expensive of the trips and which line you should take in that case, if you're looking to save money. If you don't really care, then just beep and go. And then the train stations, the areas around the train stations and then within the train stations is a great place to get a ton of food. Amazing, delicious food, great souvenirs. They're great pit stops. Tokyo Station is a really good one. They have a million just shops everywhere, and you can go to a bunch of different really yummy restaurants, and they have these interesting, it's like a shopping mall market thing, but just different food stands all over the place, and it's awesome. They had that also at the Skytree. They had the Oshiage, the Oshiage station was right next to the Skytree, so you could go in there. Either you had a stop that would come out within this huge tower mall thing that was connected to the Skytree, or there was another exit that was just right outside the mall, but literally like 7 levels packed with shops and food. And at like level 6 you could go and just gorge on everything, and then like level 3 and 4 you could go shopping and get all your fashion merchandise that you needed. It was great, and I loved it. And so even if you're not going to the train station to hop on a train, you can find so many delicious restaurants to eat at. It's just something that the Japanese have come up with and have done really well, and it's very smart. I think it's a great, and it's great like if you work and live in Japan too. It's great because if you are trying to catch a train, but you're really hungry and you just need to grab a quick bento or something, it's there, and it's very affordable and practical. So train stations overall, and using the train and the public transportation in Tokyo, it's amazing. It's the best that I've ever experienced. I've only experienced New York and LA and Korea, like Seoul area. So I've experienced quite a few big city public transportations, and Tokyo beats them by miles. It's amazing. I love it. Again, it's really clean. It's pretty affordable, and it's so on time that you don't get delays there unless there's an earthquake or something. So yes, take the public transportation. Oh, and we also found that taking the bus was quite a really nice way to see the city. And so I would recommend that if you're able to take the bus, do it. It's a little bit longer of a journey, obviously, because you have a little bit more stoppage happening, but really great. And they have big windows and you can see where you're going, and you can just kind of tour the city, and also give up your seat for the elderly. Don't be a dick. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, thumbs up it, and then subscribe. I'll have a lot more videos, and I have a lot more videos, so you can check those all out. And then also please follow me on Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and Snow and Twitter, and we'll have tons of fun together. I'm just sure of it. And I hope to see you guys around. Thank you. Bye.